Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Simply Code programming channel. This is Vikesh, and let's get started with today's topic, which is about classes and objects in Java. So, like I have been promising in the previous sessions, that I will cover this in a dedicated session, and this is the session where we will go deeper into the concept of classes and objects. You have been seeing this keyword all along in all the sessions wherever I ran the different examples. And let's understand what this means. Technically, if you go by the definition, a class is basically a blueprint of an object, which brings the question as what is object? An object is basically an instance of the class. I know this becomes more confusing, so let's break it down into simpler definitions. A class is technically a logical entity. You can think of it as any entity in the world. If you have to, let's say, if you have to build a student management system or a college management system, then all the real life objects which you see, we always say that Java is heavily inspired from real life examples, and classes and objects are the reason we say that. Because whatever you see in the world is always basically some entity. Human beings are an entity, cars are an entity, students are an entity, lecturers are an entity. So all the actors which you see in the world are basically entities, and you can map them as classes in the Java program. Now, why do you want to map them? Because these entities have basically two kind of specifications. One is every entity will have some attributes and it will have some behavior. And actually, that is how you identify an entity. For example, human beings have attributes like we have hands, we have eyes, we have ears, legs, etc. These are our attributes. Then we have our behaviors. Behaviors are actions. You can think of them as a human being can speak. So can speak is an action, it's a behavior. Can listen is an action, is a behavior. Can walk is an action, is a behavior. Similarly, can eat is also an action or a behavior. So that's how you basically represent an entity. That's how basically you identify an entity, that an entity will have some attributes and some behavior. If you see those two specifications in any entity, you can map that entity, or you can write that entity inside a Java program as a class, because a class in Java will exactly have these two properties. It will have some attributes, which we call as properties, and it will have some behaviors, which technically are called as methods. So it will have attributes, and it will have properties and methods, similar to real world entity where we have attributes and behavior. Behavior are methods and attributes are properties. That's how it is. So if you apply this simple philosophy, whenever you are taking requirements from a customer for a particular project, always try to identify these entities, these actors in your program. Once you have identified those, you will be able to write a corresponding Java class in your Java program, which can represent those entities. And without representation of those entities, you cannot write the program. So Java will kind of force you to think in this direction, to find entities which will have attributes and behaviors. So taking that philosophy further and taking that example further, here for you, I have prepared an example where I am creating a student class. So basically, let's say if you have to build a college management system or a student management system, then student is probably one of the main entities which will be talked about when you take the requirements. So if you think about the attributes and the behavior concept, a student will have a name, will have an age, will have an address, and at the same time, a student can also have some behaviors, like can enroll in a particular course, can attend a lecture, can take a leave, can take exam, etc. These are all behaviors. Let's understand this in a more detail with the help of this example where I've created a class which is named a student. And you see the public keyword here. Again, I will cover access modifier. Public is basically an access modifier, and I will cover this in very detail in the upcoming sessions. For now, let's focus on this part. So we have created a class to represent our entity. You put a curly braces around it. It ends here. And after that, you provide the attributes. So here I'm saying that a student will have a name, it will have an age, and it will have an address. It has three properties. So the technical name of attributes is properties. After that, let's skip this part and I will come back to this part. Once you have declared these properties, you would want to provide a way for the name to be filled or replaced or received. For example, if you have created the student class, how do you insert the name inside the student class? Or how do you insert the age, or how do you insert the address or modify the age, name, or address properties? For that, we have these setters and getters methods. We call them setters and getters because they start with this keyword, not keyword, but they start with a string called set. It is not a keyword. You can actually write it as anything. You can call it as modify name. That will also be absolutely fine. Java will not give you an error. But the standard naming convention given by Java is to start the methods as starting with set and get. This is the standard naming convention, and like I said, it's a naming convention. It's not a compulsion. But if you write this way, your code developers and the people who are going to maintain this project in the longer run will be very happy. Otherwise, they will be very angry if you use strange methods, because like I said, this is the standard naming convention. So now you are going to write a setter method for each of the properties in this particular class for name, age, and address. So we call set name. Again, you put public void because this is not supposed to return anything. This is just supposed to set the value of name with whatever value you specified. Then you call set name, and then you provide the value which you are supposed to set against the name. So whatever value, like any random name, John or Jane, whatever, you need to supply that name here while you call this method. And that name, whatever name you supply, will be set against the name property of this particular class. And remember, I use the word this here intentionally because the way you are going to represent this is with the help of this keyword. This keyword means current object. It means that you are, when you use this dot name, it is referring to the current object's name property. And this name is basically corresponding to the name which is coming in when somebody is trying to set a name. Similarly, for set age, age is a numeric number. If you observed, it's basically an integer. Then I'm saying int age, and whatever value of age will be coming will be set in this particular object's age. Then similarly, for set address, we have a string address argument being passed into this method, and this gets set inside the current object's address property. So I've provided a way for the external world to set the values of name, age, and address, because for each student, you would need to set these values. Now, you also need to provide a way to receive the values or to return the values or to read the values. For reading operation, you need to provide the getter method. So you see this get, again, this is not a keyword, it's a standard naming convention. So similar, when you wrote set name, similarly, you will write a get name method. This get name method is supposed to be reading the current object's name's properties value and will return that value. Since name is a string, that's why you see the return type as string here. Similarly, get age is going to return the age, which is an integer, and address is going to return the address. You can also write it like this, which is absolutely fine. It is not going to complain because technically it is returning the current objects, name properties and age property and the address property. Now let's talk about this. What is this section? So this section is basically called a constructor, and I have a whole session dedicated on the constructors, but let's understand why we need this. Remember when I told you the definition of the class, I said that class is a blueprint of an object. So you have created a student class and you have 5,000 students in your college. Now you need to create a new student object for each of those students. You need to initialize this student class 5,000 times. How do you do that? To do that, we do that with the help of constructors. We call this constructor. This is a special type of method. Remember, this is a special type of method which is provided by Java to initialize any class's objects. If you want to create multiple objects of the student class, you can repeatedly call this student constructor. We call this constructor. So you put public here because we want this constructor to be accessible to the outside world. Then you put the exact class name. So whatever class name you have provided here, you need to put the exact class name here. If you don't do that, Java is going to raise an error. If I do this here, it is going to, you see a red line here because Java failed to compile this constructor. It does not understand what is student 111, but it does understand what is student. So this is how it is going to be. And then you provide all the properties which are going to create the student object. So you're going to create the name, the age, and the address. So the name, age, and address. And then you set those values again, similar to the setter methods we have seen. The reason we need to use this here, because if you write it like this, then Java doesn't understand the difference between the current object's name and the name coming from the argument. So to differentiate that, you need to use this here. If you use n here, and if I just use n here, then this is fine because there's only single name variable in this whole class then. But if I write it like this, and if I write it like this, then Java doesn't know if this name is basically the student class's name or this name is student class's name. It will get confused, like you are getting confused if you try to just find this in the mind mapping. So that's why we need to write this here so that it's clearly differentiable that whenever I use this dot name, I'm referring to the class's name property, and when I'm just using the name, I'm referring to the method argument. That's what we do in this constructor. So you basically initialize all the properties of your class with some values with the help of constructor. So we have the constructor, we have the setter, we have the getter. We can cover about this toString. Basically, this toString is to print something, but we can cover that later. Now let's initialize this particular class. So I'm similar to the initialization we have seen so far. You just write student, you write the object name, this can be anything, and then you use the new keyword, which is used to initialize anything in Java. New is a keyword in Java which you can use to initialize literally anything in Java. So you use new student, and when you say new student, you can provide all the values which should match its constructor. So here we have three values: string, integer, and string. And here also we are supplying three values: string, integer, and string again. So remember to match this exactly with one of the constructors which is available in the class. If it doesn't match, it is going to fail. It will not work. So if I, for example, if I do this, then I'm supplying 4 arguments to the student class, but there is no constructor matching 4 arguments, so it is going to complain. You see this red line and the code is not compiling. If I remove this, then it is matching it. And that's how you basically create a student object. So an object is basically an instance of the class. Remember that very well. An object is an instance of the class. Once you have created an instance of the class, then you can call any method, like say, let's say you want to read the name. So you can call get name. You can read the name. Similarly, if you want to if you want to read the age of the student, then you can do that as well. So let me just copy this and to this, let's call get age. I want to print the name, I want to print the age, and I also want to print the address. So get control space, I get suggestion address. Yep. So I'm printing the name, I'm printing the age, and I'm printing the address after I have initialized the object successfully by using this constructor representation using the new keyword. So now let's run this method, or run this class basically. Okay, so when I ran this class, the whole class got compiled, the constructor, the getters and the setters and the properties and their types, everything was set. Then the main got called and I created a new object from this class's blueprint. The object name was John. Then I called john.getName to print the name which is stored inside this particular instance of the student class. Similarly, the age which is stored in this particular instance. So we stored the name as John. So when we call john.getName, we get John. When we call john.getAge, we get the age 25. And when we call john.getAddress, we get this particular address. Whatever values you specified here, the constructor got called here, and the name John got set to the student's name value. The age value which you supplied got set against the student's age, and the address value which you supplied got set against the student's address. And that's how you're going to create a class. So remember, whenever you create a class, identify the properties and the behaviors like setters and getters. Write a constructor which can cover all the values which you want to initialize. And after that, just initialize that class, create an object of that particular class basically. And once you have the object, then you can call getters. You can also call this in this way. If I don't supply any of this, then currently it complains. And why it complains, I will cover that in the following session when I will cover the multiple constructors concept. But remember, you see this behavior here that if you have created a constructor which accepts some arguments, and if you supply this kind of initialization, then student class does not have a constructor which is parameterless. Student class has only one constructor which is taking 3 parameters. And that's why Java complains, because it is not able to find a representation of a constructor which accepts no parameter. But like I said, we will cover this. We will find a solution to this particular problem in the coming session. But for this session, this is all we are going to cover. We covered about classes, we covered about objects, and we also saw how we can write getters and setters. We can initialize those methods, initialize those objects, and we can access the properties of those objects using the getters. And we can also call the setters to modify the values as well, similar to this. So this is all I wanted to cover in today's session. And in the next session, we are going to dive deeper in the concept of constructors and how we can write different types of constructors. And if you like this video, a thumbs up would be massively appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe to Simply Code for more programming related videos. Thank you, and we'll meet again in the next session.